Evan discovered a new personality when we got engaged. The content fiancé. He called it building our brand. I called it testing how much humiliation could be packaged as just jokes. On camera, he'd mock my color-coded spreadsheets and the way I said, library. Off camera, he'd say I was taking things personally. His best man, Leo, and his sister, Harper, filmed everything on their phones, cackling like a laugh track. At tastings, he'd cut me off mid-sentence. We'll take the brisket, she'll come around. And wink at staff like we were all in on it. The rooftop rehearsal dinner venue smelled like rosemary bread and candle wax, with strings of bulbs drooping against a violet sky. I had chosen it for the quiet view, and the way the wind softened voices. When I suggested we split speaking time at the rehearsal, he squeezed my shoulder and said, "You shine when you organize, babe. Let me handle the stage." The planner, Colette, nodded along, trying to keep the peace. I told myself this was pre-wedding static. After the weekend, the noise would settle. Then his bachelor trip bits bled into our feed. A clip of him fake crying over vows. Another of him holding cue cards labeled, "Training the Bride." He captioned a photo of my binder. Our copy basically writes itself, and added 3 skull emojis. At home, the air smelled like eucalyptus from the diffuser, and I could still hear the clink of test flute champagne in my head. I kept the timeline tight, the budget current, the family group chat calm. And I kept screenshots habits from work, now a form of prayer. The rehearsal dinner doubled as a welcome party, college friends, co-workers, a few neighbors. By 7:30, the rooftop was a warm river of voices, the AC vents humming, napkins soft as new paper under my fingers. Evan insisted on an open mic roast to keep things light, which Colette reluctantly slotted between toasts. He opened with crowd work, asking how many people had ever had a project manager for a fiancé. Hooray. Laughter. Leo and Harper stood flank left and right, with their phones up, lenses glittering. He mimed me repositioning escort cards by millimeters, performed a little skit about how I'd rehearse blinking if a spreadsheet asked me to. People laughed because the stage gives permission, people always do. I tried to breathe through my nose, count the bulbs on the string overhead. Then he pulled Sabrina the bridesmaid who'd flown in that morning into the bit and asked her to read the vows practice. He handed her cards with words he'd written. I promise not to panic when the seating chart changes. I promise to let the talent speak. When she stumbled, he took the mic back and said, "It's okay. Our girl loves to be coached." Leo whooped. Harper chanted, "Coach! Coach!" The screens of their phones were little moons aimed at my face. I smiled, lifted my flute to my lips, and tasted sweetness I didn't want. The montage was scheduled after toasts. I reminded myself, keep the night smooth. After all, I'm good at logistics. We left early, under the pretense of rest. In the rideshare, Evan fell asleep with his mouth open, the smell of whiskey and lime clinging to his breath. My phone buzzed myself into a headache. A DM from Harper, "You were such a good sport," and one from Leo, "Content is king. Tomorrow we'll bang." Evan texted from the back seat, even though he was beside me. "Don't be sensitive about the bit. Big W for the vibe." When I didn't respond, he sent a thumbs up and a wink. At home, I washed my face until the towel texture scratched my cheeks. A notification stacked over my mirror. Sabrina had posted a story from the rehearsal. Evan leaning into her with the cue cards, both of them snorting. The soundtrack was canned laughter. I clicked her profile and saw a highlight ring labeled rehearsal. Inside were clips from the last 48 hours. Airport selfies, Evan's hand holding 2 espressos, Leo tagging a bar. 11:23 p.m. And we are just starting. The bachelor trip highlight was still up. 2 Tulum beaches, shots, someone's pale forearm around Evan's neck, a voice slurring, "Married life starts early." He had told me they turned in early each night. He had told me I made drama out of nothing. He had told me jokes were love, that my feelings were an overreaction, that the stage was just a stage, and no one meant it. My phone lit up again. "Evan, tomorrow I'll handle the mic. You stay magic behind the scenes." I stared at the letters until they blurred into one long word. Erase. Sabrina's Instagram highlights contained everything except discretion. The rehearsal ring had captions like, "Coach her," under clips of Evan Mock instructing me. The bachelor ring had a beach kiss in silhouette that might have been nothing and might have been everything. I recorded my screen before anything expired, then scrolled back to Tuesday. A story reposted from Leo of a bar tab, with Evan's hand in the frame. The timestamp corner read 11:23 p.m. The song was a bass thump I could feel in my teeth. I remembered the calendar invite I'd seen by accident when I set up the florist call. Leo had shared the bachelor itinerary to the wedding party by mistake, and then yanked it back. The calendar invite still sat in my email archives like a breadcrumb. Below it, the chain where Evan wrote, "Keep the rehearsal bits spicy," and Harper replied, "She eats it up when the audience laughs." It was one kind of truth. I needed a second. The one that broke me open arrived by Venmo. Leo had sent Evan $47 with a note gas money, thanks the morning after Tulum. The payment description made my throat close with a private, bitter hilarity. My ex had once invoiced me the same amount. Now Evan's camp recycled even the laziness of betrayal. I took stills. I named files. Colette texted me a logistics question. I answered it. Then I sat on the edge of the tub, smelling eucalyptus and soap, and built a folder called Montage Revision. I wasn't going to stage a brawl. I wasn't going to hand him a reason to say I'd ruined his big day. I called Colette first. Planner see everything and choose what to ignore. "I need a change to the montage," I said. "Time-stamped and factual. Faces blurred if minors appear. I'll send by morning." She didn't ask why. She said, email me the Dropbox. Then I called the venue AV lead, Marcus, and asked if we could insert a 1-minute preface before the photo video. Like a PSA? He said. Exactly. I drafted a set of slides with neutral headings: public representations, forces contribution consent, shared calendars, payments notes. I pasted the Instagram highlight stills and the Venmo screenshot. I pulled the calendar thread with a spicy bits line. I wrote a single sentence at the end. The stage is a place, not a license. At the same time, I emailed our officiant asking to move signing the license to after the ceremony instead of before. He agreed. The county didn't care when ink dried, only that it did. I told my parents to arrive 10 minutes early and to trust me. Mom's typing bubble appeared and disappeared 3 times before she sent a heart. The night felt calibrated, like a turntable needle set in a groove. I slept 3 hours and dreamed in fonts. Saturday afternoon, the rehearsal walked a familiar loop down the aisle. Pivot, smile. Evan looked bored until a camera pointed at him. Then he lit up like a marquee. Tonight's going to be legendary, Leo whispered across rows of chairs. Sabrina hugged me with eyelash-scraped cheekbones and said I was such a star for playing along. The air smelled like sunscreen and hot glass. At 6:40 p.m., Colette gave Marcus the revised montage file. He tested the levels while servers set bread plates. The linen under my hands was cool and dimpled. I asked the band to turn the speaker by 3 degrees so feedback wouldn't hit the head table mics. Evan's father practiced his toast. My mother folded napkins into better triangles and then unfolded them, unable to choose. Evan slid his palm to the small of my back and said, "You're not going to cry tomorrow, are you?" I said, "I don't think so." He kissed my hairline and told me again that I was strongest behind the scenes. I looked past him at the black rectangle of the screen, and for the first time in weeks, my stomach unclenched. After toasts, Colette tapped a spoon to a glass. "Before our montage," she said, "a brief note on credit and consent for tonight's content." The first slide bloomed, public representations versus contribution consent. A muted clip from the rehearsal highlights played Evan pantomiming. Leo's caption, "Coach her." The audio was low but clear enough to hear the crowd laugh on the recording. The next slide showed the Bachelor timestamps 11:23 p.m., with a line below it. Public posts suggest X. The plan suggests Y. The calendar email appeared. Evan's line about keeping bits spicy. Harper's reply, "She eats it up." Then the Venmo still, 47, gas money. Thanks from Leo to Evan. Date stamped after Tulum. Marcus had grayscaled everything, names left legible. The final slide read, "The stage is a place, not a license. No voiceover, no accusation, just facts." A new sound moved across the rooftop chairs adjusting. Forks gone quiet. Someone's bracelet chiming as her arm dropped. Evan half rose, then sat. Leo lowered his phone for the first time all night. Sabrina stared at the screen like it might blink. "And now," Colette said, as if nothing in the room had shifted, "your photos." The scheduled montage baby pictures, awkward bangs, grandparents played to a crowd who had learned a new kind of listening. We didn't sign the license. When the servers brought dessert, I asked Evan to step into the side room off the kitchen. It smelled like lemon oil and steel. A fan buzzed. "I'm not doing vows tomorrow," I said. His face traveled the map offense, confusion, anger, persuasion. He called the slides cruel, said I had embarrassed him. "You embarrassed yourself," I said. I showed a transcript. He paced, muttering about money and family and optics. "We can spin it," he said. "Make it a prank." I told him I had already paid Colette's cancellation fee, spoken to the venue about flipping to a family dinner, and texted my relatives the update. He stared at me like I had grown a second head. Out in the hall, my mother laughed at something my father said, a small and ordinary sound that felt like a bridge back to ground. Leo tried to corner Colette about controlling the AV next time, and she said there wouldn't be a next time for him, not at her venues. Evan's father brought me a glass of water and a napkin, then put his hand over mine. "Do what keeps your dignity," he said, quietly enough that it felt like a benediction. Evan left with Leo and Harper in a car that I could hear squeal even from inside. By morning, the group chat had turned from exclamation points to check-ins. Sabrina sent a single text. "I'm sorry. I believed what he said about you loving bits." I typed back, "May your next stage be a better stage, and let it be." Colette posted a vendor note about consent and attribution that other planners began sharing. A cousin I never liked sent me a DM that read, unexpectedly, "Thank you for teaching our boys a lesson without throwing a plate." I forwarded my deposits and fees spreadsheet to my parents, with paid stamps across lines. Later, when I walked into my apartment, the eucalyptus had faded from the diffuser, and the air smelled like cardboard because the Tux rental boxes had arrived and would have to be returned. I slept like a rock for 10 hours and dreamed of a quiet room with no microphones. When I woke, I drafted one last email. A clean, factual summary to both families about the decision and the plan. No adjectives, no metaphors. The only line that felt like music was the last. I want our names to mean honesty when they're said out loud. A week later, Evan asked to meet, claiming closure. We sat on a public bench. The wood was sun-warm under my hands, and the late bus sighed as it braked. He said I'd ruined his image. I said he had done that himself. He asked if I wanted an apology. I said I didn't collect what I couldn't use. He said he didn't deserve to be the villain. I said he could be the author of his next chapter. When he finally ran out of words, the city noise filled the margin's bicycle bell, dog collar jingle, the soft hiss of sprinklers starting somewhere I couldn't see. I stood, brushed lint from my skirt, and left him with the simplest sentence I'd spoken all year. I'm not your stage.